to Windows on the World. This is a special Windows on the World, and we're going to be talking about the strike which is going on. It's pretty much a nationwide strike on southern trains and a few other places around the country. We've got Steve Hedley from the RMT union joining us in the studio to tell us a bit about what's happening with this strike and why the strike's been called, because in the mainstream media we don't get the full story. So Steve, welcome to Windows on the World.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Mark.
Well, it's great to see you again, and you've been getting attacked from all over the place, as is anybody who seems to be standing up for the rights of workers or the general public these days. So tell us a bit about this strike. Why is the strike being called?
Well, basically, the government and their agents at the Department of Transport have decided that they don't want any guards on the train. And what a guard is, it's a safety critical role. If there's a fire on the train, if a driver takes ill, if there's a terrorist attack on the train, they are the people that evacuate the train. They're also the people that arrange the emergency services. They come and access the track. So it's absolutely crucial that we have guards on trains. Every contract that the government has given out, they're stipulating in it that the guard has to be removed from the train. So we've got this massive row going on with Southern, but what we have really is that the government's behind it all. Similarly, we've got the Southern are trying to close all the ticket offices, and again that's been cleared by the Department of Transport. I mean, you may have seen it on the news that the government have just given Southern GTR, and they're all run by Govia, 20 million in taxpayers' money. And at the same time, Govia have announced that they've made £100 million profit. Yeah. And, you know, really you couldn't make this sort of thing up. In other places in the country, we're having similar things. We've got Merseyrail, a dispute there, First Great Western, a dispute there, ScotRail, a dispute there, all over the same sort of issues.
Yeah, well, last time we spoke, it was going on for a couple of years ago, and it was about the closure of ticket offices on the Underground, which we've now seen. And this is pretty horrendous, because they're taking away the public's ability to actually buy a ticket, and also this has got to tie in with the health and safety issues, hasn't it?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about that? Why would they be doing this apart from to save money?
Well, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly the reason. Because we have a lot of stations now around London that people just can't access. If you're disabled, you can't access because there's no one there to help you on and off that train. They've cut the staff in all the stations. It's not just that the ticket office person was there to sell tickets. They were multifunctional. They could do all other duties as well, like platform duties, like help disabled people. And one of the organisations that campaign for disabled people is called DPAC. They're a direct action group. They pointed out that in several stations they could actually be stuck in lifts. Disabled people could be stuck in lifts for up to 30 minutes at a time because there's no one trained in on the station who would actually be able to access that lift. So we have the knock-on effects, station closures, which London Underground and TfL try to hide. We also have this thing where disabled people now have to book up a lot of times 48 hours in advance if they want to use a tube network or a train network. Yeah.
So I suppose the question would be, how much money do they think they're going to save by doing this?
Well, I think over a period of years it's going to run into millions, but really it's peanuts.
Yeah.
You know, when you think that they've given £20 million to Southern GTR to basically bolster their profits, I think that would employ guards, you know, I don't know, for the next 40 years. It's incredible.
That's kind of why I brought that point up, because it's just such a minuscule amount of money. But what we've seen with the tube stations is, as you're saying, it's so inconvenient now for people. This is against the interest of the public. So yeah. I suppose what you're saying is that this strike is really about trying to wake people up as well. I mean, obviously you're just going to get slated in the mainstream media for this. So what would you say to the public?
Well, what we'd say to them is, you know, we don't enjoy going on strike. No one joins the railway industry so they can go on strike. And when they go on strike, people lose a day's money or 2 days' money. That's going to happen now. But people, especially the guards and the station staff, feel very, very strongly about this issue. They don't want to see situations where, you know, let's leave aside all the emergencies, which I've just explained, but they don't want people being harassed on trains late at night by drunkards or people that are using other substances. They want women to feel safe on trains. Similarly, at stations, especially on the coast, and even in London, in the outskirts of London, some stations, you know, are very deserted after 6 o'clock on a winter's evening when it's dark. And we don't want the position where people are feeling vulnerable and don't want to use the network because that they're frightened to go on it. So I think it's incumbent upon the government to sort this mess out and stop funding Southern and stop giving them directives to carry out these policies.
I think the very important thing here is that public recourse in every way has been taken away from them, you know, because if you are at a station late at night or even early in the evening and there's no one there, then you are pretty powerless. There's nothing you can do. And what do you do then? You phone up an automated helpline.
That the thing is, I don't think they mind. I don't think that the powers that be mind, because they're having record numbers of people on trains anyway. So I don't think that they're going to lose that much revenue. But where it is very dangerous is for those members of the public who are going to be using those stations. You know, if we have an incident now, for example, at King's Cross or Hammersmith or Bank Station, the numbers of staff that have been cut at those stations, I don't think that we're going to get people out safely. I mean, it's only, 10 years ago when we had the bombings in London. And the number of staff at that time, we managed to get people out relatively safely. No one was actually killed in King's Cross itself. So I think it's going to be very, very difficult to achieve that in the future.
Well, yeah, this is the whole point. So they're relying on the fact that there's huge numbers of commuters and they can still make their money. But so what else can you do? What can the unions actually do now? Just let's go into how the powers have been taken away from the unions as well, because I think people need to know that.
Well, just what can people do? I mean, we're fighting it industrially, but I notice a load of commuters and a commuter group are now crowdfunding. I think they've actually nearly raised the amount to take this to the High Court about GTR Southern and the sort of service that they're getting. What's happening with the unions? Obviously, they've got the new anti-union bill, which has come in, and that does two things. First of all, if there's 100 people in your workplace, then 50 of them have to vote in a ballot for the ballot to be even valid. So you could have 49 people voting yes, no one voting no, but that ballot would still be invalid. Second thing you have is a secondary stipulation is that 40% of the total amount of people have to vote yes. So you could have a ballot, say, that has, 69% turnout, nearly 70% turnout. You could have 39% of people voting yes, 30% of people voting no. And again, that ballot wouldn't be valid. You know, it's obviously, 3/4 of people have voted. So that's the stipulations the government are putting in now, the restrictions on people defending themselves by taking industrial action.
Yeah, well, it's like controlling the narrative, really, isn't it? Because it's this sort of control. You've been victim of it, really. I mean, you've been roundly attacked from all sides, and really, it's not the people within the union are actually getting attacked, really, aren't they? That's what it's really about. Can you go into that and explain how that works? That basically the unions have been infiltrated, and as is every public body, for an intended outcome.
Yeah, well, I mean, what they're trying to do is take away any power that workers have to fight back against the deterioration in their job, be it financially or terms and conditions, their work-life balance. And they're trying to make it with such a situation that they're going to try to really ban the use of strike action without actually having to say that they've banned the use of strike action legally. They make it so difficult for most unions that they won't actually in reality be able to go on strike. So that'll allow them to impose really anything that we want. If you look at it now, for example, 70% of British people want to renationalise the railway. Why isn't that on the government's agenda? It's not on the government's agenda because their strategic interest is that they sell that off to their friends in the trade motor braking companies, who in return fund the Tory party, make donations to the Tory party. So when we've got that on the one hand, why are they going to let unions upset the apple cart and stop their friends making a profit which they can donate back to their party?
Yeah, it's the big corporatisation of everything, and the people who really lose out are the public. And it happens over and over again. It's happening at every level. So, Steve, last word. What would you say to anybody who's criticising the unions at this time?
Well, all I would say is that you have to think in the long term. We didn't join trade unions so that we could upset people and not get them from A to B. We want to do that, but we want to do it in a safe manner. the unions are actually on your side. We're going to be campaigning to bring the railway into a nationalised body, so this multi-billion pound exercise every year where taxpayers pay in money and it's paid back to shareholders in dividends and not invested in the railway has to stop. I think Jeremy Corbyn has now said he's going to renationalise the railway. We're fully behind that, and we'll be giving them all the support we can.